From WCPO TV, Channel 9 News at 11. With Pat Monarson, Carol Williams, Bob Allen's weather, and Dennis Jensen Sports.
Good evening. Carol's off tonight. Friends and supporters of Middletown Congressman Buzz Lukens are saying tonight they plan to stand behind him no matter what. That despite an indictment handed up against Lukens today, the charge that he's been having an affair, a sexual affair, with an underage girl. John Matarese has more on the charges and what the congressman's supporters think.
Butler County's Republican Party gathered for its regular meeting the very same day the district's congressman, Donald Buzz Lukens, learned he had been indicted on criminal charges, contributing to the delinquency of a child. But these friends and supporters of the conservative congressman came to praise him, not to bury him, saying their support for Lukens hasn't wavered.
He will be the 8th District Congressman for the balance of the term, and it is our intention to be the candidate in 1990. Thank you.
Scandal first surfaced several weeks ago when a Columbus woman charged that her teenage daughter had been sexually involved with Lukens since she was 13 years old. A grand jury, after considering the evidence, finally handed down an indictment, a misdemeanor charge that carries a possible penalty of 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine.
And the violation is that Mr. Lukens engaged in sexual conduct, to wit, vaginal intercourse with a 16-year-old girl.
Lukens denies the charge, issuing a statement today that said, "I categorically deny that I contributed to the delinquency or unruliness of a minor at any time." There had been speculation that Lukens could be hit with some very serious charges, but now that he's only facing a misdemeanor charge, supporters here say they think that he might be able to pull through this crisis.
And I think that he can still bounce back from this. He's not down and he's not out.
We feel that legally our congressman can defend himself and possibly even be exonerated.
And what if he is convicted? Butler County Republicans, at least publicly, say that's not a concern of theirs right now. In Hamilton, John Matarese, Channel 9 News.
In Washington, just a couple of hours ago, the Senate Armed Services Committee voted to recommend against John Towers' nomination to be Secretary of Defense. The vote followed party lines, 11 against, 9 for. It represents the first time a Senate committee has voted against a cabinet nominee in 44 years. For Towers' critics on the committee, the cutting issue was his long-rumored problem with alcohol. Committee Chairman Sam Nunn of Georgia said the record of alcohol abuse couldn't be ignored and added this.
Nominees must be of unquestionable integrity and suited by temperament for the demands of managing our nation's military forces.
The committee vote does not kill the Tower nomination. That'll be decided with a vote by the full Senate unless Tower first withdraws. But it casts a very long shadow, a shadow that Tower may not be able to survive. No comment from Tower yet, but in Tokyo, where President Bush arrived a few hours ago for the funeral of Emperor Hirohito, spokesman Marlon Fitzwater says Mr. Bush will stand by Tower and, quoting now, there's no consideration of any change, period. Aides say the president will start lobbying the full Senate for a yes vote on Tower as soon as he returns to the White House on Monday. The Hirohito funeral began just a few hours ago. It will take the entire day. It started with the emperor's body being carried by hearse from the imperial palace to a beautiful hilltop garden a few miles away. Thousands of hushed Japanese line the cortege route. It's a gray, rainy day in Tokyo. It's the biggest funeral the world has seen this century, with 10,000 invited guests. In Ross Township tonight, there was a briefing on what promises to be another eyebrow-raising report due out tomorrow on the government's Fernald uranium plant. The briefing was for plant neighbors. The report's from the conservation-minded Sierra Club. We've been told that the report addresses radioactive emissions from the plant and projects that these emissions will cause higher cancer rates among Fernald's neighbors and workers in years to come. Meantime, a congressional committee heard more hearings on Fernald today, and Washington held more hearings, I should say. Much was made of a report disclosing that 3,000 pounds of radioactive uranium escaped from Fernald in an accident in 1966. Fact is, we aired a report about that accident here on Channel 9 almost 4 years ago in March of 1985. It was part of a lengthy investigation of the risks at Fernald by reporter Dave Failing. A hung jury in Falmouth tonight in the trial of former Scoutmaster Dan Newman from Covington. He'd been accused of sexually molesting 2 of his scouts on a camping trip to Pendleton County. The jury got the case late today, deliberated for 2 hours, and then reported to the judge that it was deadlocked. The prosecutor says he'll press for a retrial. Newman swears he's innocent, but the scouts made up their accusations against him after Newman chewed them out for smoking marijuana. The Tri-State's retail giants like McAlpin's and Lazarus are about to be summoned to battle, a shopping mall war, some call it. This because stores like B. Altman's, Parisienne, and Bonwit Teller open next week in the massive new Forest Fair Mall. Big advertising dollars are already being spent by both the newcomers and the long-established retailers. Analysts say the battle should mean lots of sales and top-notch service at least for the next 6 months. Nearly 50 empty river barges broke loose from a mooring in Sailor Park tonight around 7:30. The barges were all rounded up by 10 o'clock. No damage, the Coast Guard says. An investigation into the cause will begin in the morning, but a spokesman says high water was probably a factor. You're going to want to hit the floor running again, again come morning. It's going to be bitterly cold again. How cold? Well, here's Bob with his first weather check to spell it out for us. Bob?
Thanks, Pat. Temperature when you start off tomorrow morning should be right around 0. Bitter cold. Right now, 7 degrees.